Okay, let me have the Senate's attention. I know that the hour's getting late and everyone's tired and have been working very, very hard, and I want to say thank you to all the Senate members for the hard work in which you have put forward this night. We're going to take up some special orders. The Senator from the 19th will move for the remainder of the bills to be laid on the table. I want everyone to be reminded, not only in the chamber but out in the halls, that every year on the 39th day, we place bills on the table in order to be brought off the table on the 40th day. The reason for this is that the Senate does not have a calendar on the 40th day by rule, very different than the House. This will allow the bills to be brought off the table and voted on. So this is not a move that would restrict anyone, any author, from having the ability to take their bill off the calendar, off the table, and voted on the 40th day. Senator from 33rd, what purpose do you rise?
Inquiry, Mr. President, and then one inquiry and then one parliamentary inquiry. Can you tell us what posture the Senate's in and what our schedule is right now?
Well, the posture the Senate is in right now is a posture by which it can do business. And we will take up some special orders that senators need to move on, ideally those that are disagrees, in which need to be moved back to the House in order to begin the process for conference committees for Thursday.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Would you ask the Secretary to read Rule 3.1.8 for all of our benefit, please?
Secretary will read.
3.3-1.8 failed bills, prohibition against being proposed again. No bill or resolution intending to have the effect of law which shall have been rejected by either house shall again be proposed during the same regular or special session under the same or any other title without the consent of 2/3 of the House by which the same was rejected.
Is that a constitutional provision? Yes. Is that a constitutional provision?
State your inquiry again.
Is that a constitutional provision that's tied to the Constitution of Georgia?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
That does not mean that a bill cannot be reconsidered. A bill can be reconsidered.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President. I want you to have this. I really do.
Yeah, well,
because it doesn't mean anything.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from the 54th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to remove House Bill 347 from the table.
347 from the table. Is there objection? Without objection, it will be moved from the table. Secretary will read.
House Bill 347 by Representative Hembree, the 67th, and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 332310 of the OCGA relating to the examination of applicants and for their purposes.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 54th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to suspend the rules to allow House Bill 347 to be the next item on our agenda.
Is there objection? Without objection, it will be the next item. The Secretary has read.
The whole thing over again?
Yep.
House Bill 347 by Representative Hembree, the 67th, and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 332310 of the OCGA relating to the examination of applicants and for their purposes. Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Insurance and Labor committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 347. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 34 of the OCGA relating to employment security so as to change certain provisions relating to unemployment compensation and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 54th to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members of the Senate. I will try to be brief and to the point. This is the identical language that this body passed after much debate as Senate Bill 447. This is the unemployment trust fund bill that we debated quite extensively, as you know, in this chamber. I respect my colleagues across the aisle and their opinion on this issue. You have my assurances that we are moving this bill in the interest and commitment from the House to form a committee of conference. And to that extent, I would ask that we not consume a great deal of time debating this issue tonight. And then when we have a conference committee report, perhaps if we need to do that, we can do that at that time. Mr. President, I would yield for questions. I'd ask senators to please vote as you did on 447 because it's exactly the same provisions.
There are no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 41st speak to the bill.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, this is an important issue to Georgia. We have a deficit to the federal government on unemployment. We have a lot of concerns that the bill, I and most members of my caucus have concerns that this bill has passed, put too much of the burden on workers. We don't want to delay to deliver a big speech tonight or belabor points that we discussed for hours before, but we did want someone to come to the well and say that the burden in this bill should be more evenly spread, that when we debated it before, it was clearly shown the largest amount of burden and the effect of what was Senate Bill 447 was on the workers. We hope that a conference committee can be appointed and that members of the Senate on the conferees will take the concerns of all the members, both those worried about elements of the workers and elements of the business community, and work into a bill that is, in a conference committee report that is more fair, more balanced, and better and more acceptable to all members of the body. We're allowing this to be done tonight and waiving the rule so that a conference committee can be put together and not be rushed on Thursday, and we're doing that in the interest of having enough time to really work on this in detail and not rush it as so many things are at this late time. So I urge my members who opposed this bill before and had concerns about it to vote against it. They don't have to go on record voting for something that might not be popular in their communities. It would be expected probably to still pass this chamber and be able to go in a conference committee report. Thank you. I'll yield the well if there's no questions.
No questions, Senator. Questions on the adoption of committee substitute? Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree in the Porter Committee which fail pass the bill? Chairs none. Porter Committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chairs none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Questions on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary, unlock the machine. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 35 and the nays are 14. And this bill, emergency records constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes Senator from the 46th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 365 as amended.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 365 by Senator Hamrick of the 30th. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 19 of Title 15 of the OCGA relating to the regulation of the practice of law so as to define a term and for other purposes.
I'm sorry, Senator, I can't take that motion right now. My apologies. They're just putting it on the desk. Chair recognizes Senator the 19th.
Table the following bills: House Bill 684, House Bill 745, House Bill 746.
Suspend for one moment, please. Senator, we haven't taken up 541. HB 541.
Have we not taken that bill up? No. Okay, I'm sorry. You want me to start all over?
Yes, please.
Mr. President, I move to table the following bills: House Bill 541, House Bill 684, House Bill 745, House Bill 746, House Bill 766, House Bill 875, House Bill 932, House Bill 945, House Bill 997, House Bill 1048, House Bill 1066, House Bill 1067, House Bill 1069, House Bill 1102, House Bill 1110, House Bill 1178, House Resolution 1151, House Resolution 1376,
Two other bills.
House Bill 929, House Bill 930, House Bill 1150.
Or House Resolution 1150.
House Resolution 1150.
Is there objection? Without objection, those bills will all be laid on the table. Senator from the 46th, please restate your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 365 as amended.
As amended, read the announcement. Read the caption.
Senate Bill 365 by Senator Hamrick of the 30th. A bill to be entitled, an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 19 of Title 15 of the OCGA relating to the regulation of practice of law so as to define a term and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Senator from 46 to speak to his motion. Present the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Senate Bill 365 that passed us earlier. It had very slight adjustments from the House as they received it. This requires there to be a settlement agent to handle a real estate closing in the state of Georgia, and it narrows the people that are qualified to do that to either the lender or an attorney in the state of Georgia. We have amended it by adding what was House Bill 880 in its entirety as it passed the Senate, or it passed the Banking Committee. This is the bill from it's just a clarification bill from the Georgia Real Estate Commission and the Georgia Real Estate Appraisers Board, their annual housekeeping bill. It adds a section that defines what a sanction or a disciplinary sanction is. It defines a letter of finding, which is a warning to somebody that had an appraiser or a realtor that has violated the terms and conditions of their organizations. And it allows those organizations to revoke a real estate license or an appraiser's classification if the licensee surrenders its license or its license lapse after there's an investigation ongoing. So it prevents these folks from resigning while an investigation is ongoing in order to avoid punishment. It also has a definition for a relocation company distinguished from the definition of an appraisal management company. Finally, it requires a salesperson to be active in 3 of the previous 5 years before taking a broker's exam. It's, of course, supported by the Georgia Real Estate Appraisers Board, the Georgia Real Estate Commission, and is their annual housekeeping bill. I would urge the Senate to agree to Senate Bill 365 as amended by adding this House Bill 880 to it. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the well, or I'm happy to answer any questions.
There are no questions, Senator. The Senator has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute as amended. All of those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 46, the nays are 1, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute as amended. Chair recognizes Senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 368.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 368 by Senator Carter the First and others. Bill to be entitled and add to amend Chapter 26 and Title 43 of the OCGA relating to nurses, so as to provide for continuing competency requirements as the Board of Nursing may require, and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Senator from the first.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Senate Bill 368, this was the nurses' continuing competency bill that some changes were made in the House that we don't want to accept, and I would ask that we have a conference committee appointed so that we could work it out.
Is there objection? Without objection, clear my screen. Did you get the caption? Is there objection? Without objection, the Senate has disagreed to the House substitute. Chair recognizes Senator from the 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 366 as amended.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 366 by Senator Grant to the 25th and others. Bill to be entitled and act to amend Chapter 4A of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to the Department of Juvenile Justice so as to revise restrictions regarding possession of contraband at juvenile detention centers and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 366 was our Department of Juvenile Justice contraband bill. There were 3 small editing changes that were made in the House. On lines 58 and 59, those were added to make a reference to the term guard line. There was a style change in lines 77 through 79. And then there was a more inclusive term was used on line 100, where it says including but not limited to a variety of telecommunication devices. Those changes we would like to agree to. They don't make any substantive change. But we do have a late arriving amendment that we do need to add, and this should be on your desk. And this does simply removes the sunset date of July the 1st, 2013 on a change in the sentencing length for the delinquent act by a juvenile. Several years ago, we moved that down to 30 days as a maximum. It had been 60 days. That seems to work very well, and we just want to remove that that sunset date, and that is in lines 12, 13, and 14 of the amendment. If there are no questions, I'll yield the well and urge your favorable approval of Senate Bill 366 as amended.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 42nd. Question.
Would Senator yield?
I yield.
Is it not true that we have broad bipartisan support for this bill and that we worked hard on it in committee and it's a fine piece of legislation at this point?
If the senator so states. I yield the well.
The senator has moved to agree to the House substitute as amended to SB 366. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute as amended. Chair recognizes Senator from the 51st.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 225.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 225 by Senator Miller, the 49th, and others. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 10 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to obstruction of public administration and related criminal offenses and for other purposes.
Senators moving to disagree. Is there objection? Without objection, the Senate has disagreed to the House substitute. Chair recognizes Senator on the first.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 380.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 380 by Senator Carter, the first, and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 26 of the OCGA relating to pharmacists and pharmacies so as to provide for a change in the definition of security paper and for other purposes.
The senators move that the Senate disagree. Is there objection? Without objection, the Senate has disagreed. Senator from the 9th. Chair recognizes Senator from the 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 332 as amended.
We'll read the caption in just a moment.
Senate Bill 332 by Senator Ligon of the 3rd and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 8 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to country sales and use tax so as to expand the matters which are included in annual reporting of the expenditure and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. The bill coming over from the House made one change in that it deleted the section that required the counties to advertise the cost of a SPLOST project on an ongoing basis, and it was decided that that was just too much of a too difficult to predict. So we don't have any objection to that coming out of the bill. And then there was a provision that was added that would allow retailers to post some advertising that the sales tax was going to be included in the price, but there's going to be an amendment offered that will make some changes to that, and I will let the senator from the 9th address that because that amendment is coming at his request. So, Mr. President, unless there are any questions, I'll yield the will. And
No question. Chair recognizes Senator from the 9th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me explain this amendment to you. You may have seen two copies on your desk. At least one senator showed it to me. The first one didn't have a page 2, and we weren't trying to hide something, so we passed it out again with page 1, 2, and 3. When we passed the tax bill the other day, there was an agreement between ACCG and GMA on how to do the energy. That was agreed to. Since then, they've come to a new conclusion on how to do that. That's what this amendment is. This is agreed to by both GMA and ACCG. I think I've spoken to both the minority party and the majority party and the lieutenant governor, and I think you should have heard from both ACCG and GMA as well. And this is just is their new way that they would like to distribute, get into the energy, if they want to put energy back on, how cities can do it versus how counties can do it. It's how they worked out their agreement. If there are questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I would ask for you to vote for this bill as amended.
The senators move to agree the House substitute as amended. Is there objection? Okay, well, actually, we have to put it on the machine. All those in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage, or on the motion, yeas are 48 and the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed. House substitute as amended. Chair recognizes Majority Leader, Senator from 21st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate stand adjourned until Thursday at 10 a.m.
Thursday at 10 a.m. I'll tell you, we got a lot of folks ready to go home, it sounds like. Read the announcements. Are there any? Right. There are no announcements. The Majority Leader has moved. Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Thursday. All in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. That's a weak no, and the ayes clearly have it. Stand adjourned.